Along with House Bill 5, the SAFER Act, has changed the law. Previously, any juvenile who had been waived up to circuit to be tried as an adult was eligible for probation. It did not matter if the charge was murder. The juvenile now was eligible for probation and shock. Now, any juvenile being tried as an adult who uses a firearm during the commission of a Class A, B, or C felony is not eligible for probation. Now, that doesn't mean that there are other circumstances that we have to look at. Ladies and gentlemen, and especially in the community, there are a lot of things that you see on TV. There's a lot of things that's going out on the streets. But a lot of times we have shooters that we cannot identify. You see them on the news because you're sharing that with us. But we don't have them. Or if we have a juvenile, we may not have a witness to share with us exactly what we need to do, how we need to do it. It's investigated first and then it comes to us. So there's some caveats to this. We're not looking at excuses. We are sharing with you the realities of what we're dealing with in our community. Our message for you today, first to our youthful offenders. This may sound simple, but you need to put the guns down. You've just heard, and a lot of people have asked us exactly how it works. How does juveniles get to our office? I just shared that with you. So if an adult tries to hand you a gun and make you think that it's going to be an easier sentence for you, you are absolutely incorrect. You're wrong. Senate Bill 20 and House Bill 5 make sure that that does not occur. If you use a gun when you commit an A, B, or C felony and are convicted, you will be convicted, hear me clearly, as an adult. I know that there's a lot going on today. There's been a lot going on for the past several years. But we can stay in our lane and do what we can as the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. You will not be eligible for probation like you might have been before. So don't ask. To our parents, we've got some good ones out there. We've got some parents who walk their kids to school, who get them to programs that they may or may not be able to afford. They work every day, all night, and then come home and spend time with their children. We have grandparents and great-grandparents that are raising other generations much younger than them. These are the great parents. I had a wonderful mother. Her birthday would have been today. She passed away at 46 years old, and I was 21. And I helped raise my 13 and 15-year-old siblings. So it's not easy. It absolutely is not. And it comes with some sacrifices. But that's what we do when we sign up as parents, as guardians, as caretakers. So I want to talk to the parents. I'm talking to the parents who have decided to completely detach themselves from their children. I am not talking about the great parents who have really stepped up and have asked for services and helps for their children, and the system has failed them. I'm not talking about those parents. I'm talking about these. You are responsible for your children. If you don't start taking some responsibility, again, I'm talking about the parents who have just decided to detach themselves from your kids. We've already seen parents bear criminal responsibility for their children's crimes in our country. That is why we're here today. 2 parents are convicted for involuntary manslaughter in Michigan following a school shooting. Here in Kentucky, House Bill 611 refers parents to the county attorney's office for prosecution considering truancy. KRS 405025 holds a parent and a guardian liable for willful damage to property under $2,500 caused by an unemancipated minor. KRS 186590 holds the person who signs a driver's license application, usually a parent or a guardian, of a minor liable for damages who cause negligence. So we are in this arena. This is not new for us, but we are stepping up to see what else we can do. What other options do we have to take care of our city? There is precedence in our state for parental responsibility laws, ladies and gentlemen, which impose criminal and civil liability for the failure to take control of your juveniles, leading to bad acts. We, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the prosecutors of this city, is taking a stand and calling now for our legislators to help us draft and pass new legislation for parental responsibility that covers these cases of youthful offenders possessing guns they should not have. It is time for bold action and new solutions. During the same time we've been doing and hoping that makes things better on our own has not been enough. We have been actually working on this, talking with our violent crimes unit. That violent crimes unit now is much, much stronger. We will probably get more people in that area because that is how serious we're talking when we're dealing with youthful offenders and guns. This is not a condemnation on the community. I'm part of the community. I've been here a very long time. Was actually brought here by the military, but our first place was right down here at Village West. My mama worked in the factories of Philip Morris. This is our city. So this is not an attack on the good people who live here. This is a targeted approach for those in the community who don't feel outraged like the rest of us have. You've heard them all day today. This is us needing to go after those who think that their kids' acts are okay without any regards to anyone else. When we see what we see, it affects everyone. Every child, every parent, every grandparent, everyone in this city of Louisville. We are not talking about parents who are involved. Again, we are not talking about grandparents who've stepped up. We are not talking about parents who have asked the system to help them and they have failed them. We are not talking about those. Although we have to work together, there are things our office can do ourselves within our lane to actually make a difference. There are organizations and people in those organizations, you've heard them this week and others, they are doing great things and we applaud them. But we need more tools in our tool belt here. We have more to come and we are thinking outside the box on new initiatives. As President of the Urban League today said, we are after looking at root causes solutions. And then when those don't work or when those are still developing, we still got to get those kids off the street that need to be off. That one child is actually, the youthful offender is affecting so many in our community. So for the community, I know that we've had enough. We're part of the community too. And this is not anything that we ever thought that we would see. The goal should be prevention of the commission of these offenses in the first place. So we're not in a position where we must prosecute 14-year-olds and murderers that have been charged with murder. We don't want to do that, but this is where we are. We all need to work together to treat this as a public health epidemic. That's what this is. And make meaningful, actionable solutions. In the meantime, our officers will do what is necessary with the tools we have. A focus on group violence is important, and we retain that focus. However, this allows us to go beyond just looking at groups and gangs for where problems are and pay particular attention to youthful offenders. We both have a narrow and broader scope with our efforts, and that's why we are here today. I want to share also, because the media is here, I hope that you all were there today to see the wonderful celebration of the West End Girls and Boys School. Those are some great things that are happening. These are kids that are just wanting to learn, just like the other children that are not in that school. And that is all of our responsibility. So this may not be well liked, but we are coming after parents, one after another. That is our charge, and we will do everything to make that successful. Thank you. Have any questions?
If you're going to be charging these kids as adults, will we be able to get their information, their mugshots, be able to follow the information through the court system?
Yes, the question was if we're going to be charging youthful offenders or adults, can you give that information? Yes, because they're being charged as an adult. Now, what happens is that with youthful offenders, they start in juvenile court. And then, of course, we talked about what the law looks like. So it takes some time to transfer them, because we don't do arraignments. They're transferred to us. During that transfer period, no, it's not open to any open records or anything because it's not been indicted yet. But after that time, because we tried cases, we just tried a case with 2 juveniles, and it's open record. I mean, it's open to everyone to see.
So their mugshots and all that will be available?
Now, I'm not going to say if the mugshots are available because I honestly don't know. So I don't want to lie to you. I'm not sure. But I can tell you the case and all the information that's there, that it's available to you.
I know this is in the county attorney's wheelhouse, but in order to become a youthful offender, you have to get out and keep repeating and doing the same thing over and over again. And so we have lack of space when it comes to people going into juvie. What is your take on that as the Commonwealth attorney? Because if maybe they were inside and being prosecuted in juvie, they may not be able to do things like that and may not have to come to your office.
So she's talking about whether or not with not enough detention centers and the detention center itself and where the youthful offenders, if they were in. What I can share with you is in the county attorney's office and in court, in juvenile court, decisions that are being made, I don't think are much different than it was when we did have detention centers. You know, the county attorney, and I don't want to speak for the prosecutors of the county. I used to work there. But we go in front of the judge, and the judge will determine based on what we're dealing with, of whether or not that youthful offender is going to be on HRP or going to be released. That's not any different than adults. So I'm not sure. I think at this point what we're dealing with is, I could be wrong, but I think this would be happening anyway. There's something that's going on that we've never seen before. And these are kids continuously doing what they're doing. Because there's still detention centers. There's some in Adair County, there's some in Northern Kentucky, there's some, there are some. And I can't say they can house the many of the offenders that we have now. But they're available. So I really don't know if I'd say that the detention center, it will be definitely a help when it's, when it's constructed and when it's time for us to be able to use it, but I'm not going to necessarily. I think at this point, for me, I just don't want to use anything as an excuse as to why these kids are doing what they're doing. Other than the root causes, I get it, and other things that we have to look at. But what we have to deal with is what we have in front of us, and that's over 80 youthful offenders that we have.
On the topic of parental responsibility laws, you mentioned wanting to push some of this through in Kentucky. Are there any states that have model legislation that you imagine maybe working off of as like a template?
We've got a few out there, but no, this is very unusual, I guess you could say. They're all different parts of parental responsibility laws that are out there, but nothing specific as it relates to, other than Michigan. Michigan really was one of our, for all of us, we didn't have any precedents like that. So now we do. We have to craft it. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm sure there's legislatures and others that are really uncomfortable with this subject, and I get it. But we have to start somewhere. We've got to figure out what next steps look like. So it'll be new for us, but that's why we have Jason. I will share with you that Jason is one of the most intelligent persons that I've ever met, one of the most intelligent prosecutors that I've met. He can pull cases out from the 1970s. So I think we're in good hands to start looking at other areas. He's also over our interns and externs, so we can get some research, and that's what we've been doing. This is not something new for us. For the past several months, we've started looking at that.
Getting people to talk to your investigators and to talk to police to build these cases has been a problem. We had a lady yesterday tell us that she's just, quite frankly, they're not going to talk to the police. How big of a problem is that?
I think it's a big problem. I think that's part of our problems that we're having, and I understand that. I understand how scary it could be. We always use that term, if you see something, say something. There is a line that you can call that's anonymous, but the other part is our responsibility to be part of the community. I'll share with you one of my colleagues that's the district attorney in Boston. It took 6 or 7 years of working in the community before they really even saw some changes with the community and with law enforcement, which a lot of times that's how people see us, and they have to trust us. I mean, they have to trust that we're going to do what we say. But there's some fear factor there. I understand that. And then that's our responsibility to start getting those kids off the street the best way we can. But it's definitely, but it's not the biggest problem, because we have cases that we're working through and trying to figure out. But that is going to be one of, that's always been an obstacle that we're trying to get through. And I'm saying it today, and I'm sure you all will call me on it if I don't, but we've got to be in the community in order for folk to trust us. I talk to old school police officers all the time, and they used to be in the community all the time. They would walk around. They did not feel like that anything was going to happen to them. They talked to the youth. They were in the schools, and they have shared the biggest part of it is that people have to trust us, and they don't. A lot of them don't, and I get it.
When you have two 15-year-olds involved in a gunfight before 8 o'clock in the morning, first day of school, in front of other kids, what's that say about what's happening in Louisville?
Well, I won't talk about those because we haven't gotten anything yet, but what it says about Louisville is that we have an excellent opportunity to come together as a community to fix a problem that's ours. It's ours. And it's okay. It's not okay about what's happening, but it is okay for us to pivot. What it says is that we need to pivot. What it also says is that it means that the community and the agencies and all the 501c3s that are doing great things will have to continue to do that. But I'll share with you that someone said, one of the leaders said today, it's okay to disagree about things, but we've got to figure, it's our problem. That's what's happening when you've got everything that we can't even keep up half the time. But it's a perfect opportunity for us to make that turn. And that's why a lot of times you may not hear from the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, because we're working. We are trying to figure out what we can do in our office as a strategy to help with the community. So when you hear from us, we're giving you, being as transparent as we can, but we're giving you the next steps that we're looking at. And hopefully it'll help.
And you mentioned the system failing parents and kids, and really calling out the parents who have kind of disowned their kids. We talked to a father yesterday of one of those 15-year-olds, and he said, I tried to get help. And he said that the state and police, they just never followed up. What is your message to parents who see, they know their children, you know your child, you know when someone's in danger, and they just feel like nothing's happening?
That nothing's happening. And we hear them, we hear you, we see you. That was why it was very important that I shared with you earlier that there are particular, it's narrow in scope of what we're looking at for parental responsibility, because it also is going to, look, we know that our system has failed a lot of us, especially in a lot of our communities, and we are trying to rebuild that, but it's going to take some time, because it's cyclical. It's not only cyclical, but it's also, it has turned into this trickle of water that's turned into this big storm. So it's not unusual that one thing leads to another. And we have family court, and we've got criminal court, and then we've got circuit court. And we hear you and we see you, and I'm hopeful that those who have the talents, because there are people who have just been given some incredible talents on things when it deals with mental health. But 10 years ago, we didn't talk about mental health. Now we are. But we are always behind. We are always behind what's happening, and I hear that a lot, that we are always just responding to what's already happened. So I say to the parents, we see you, we hear you, and we have always been, our prosecutors have always been very mindful of that. That's why you have some great things going on in the circuit court. You've got drug court, you got veteran court, you got the homeless court that's in district court. There are some things that we are trying to work on, but it's going to take all of us. Because that is not, I always say that's not my role, but we know that mental health is a big, big thing, and we know that parents are doing the absolute best that they could do. That's why I shared at 21 years old. It may not be a big deal, but I had a 13 and 15-year-old siblings that I had to figure out where do we go from here. And it's not easy. It's not easy. So we need to be mindful of that. That's why when we talk about legislatures and laws, it needs to be specific in nature as much as we possibly can. And I'll be honest with you, the legislature has done that for us, to do what we need to do.
And you call this a public health epidemic. What is your message to the people who are perpetrating these things? And violent crime is down in Louisville, but this is such a big deal.
And I applaud those numbers. I'm glad those numbers have been going down for the past couple of years. That's wonderful. But we're also in the midst of actually, it's just like an epidemic, losing a generation of children. I mean, that's where we're going. And you see it. You see it every day. And that's why I say that I'm not in this business to fight with people. We want to disagree when we need to, and we'll talk that out. And the folk that work with me, they know that behind closed doors. I'm very open and honest, and very clear about when there's problems and something that we don't agree on as an agency. But the other part of it is that there's got to be another way of being intentional now, today in 2025, because we can talk about the past all day long. But in 2025, we got to figure out what's happening. I've seen these press conferences, and I've seen just the hurt, and I know that we want solution. So we want to be part of that. We know that we can't be the whole solution, but we want to be part of that. And we're sincere about that. That's why we close out 1,000 cases every 4 months. Then we bring in thousands of cases. So we know that that alone cannot be what we're doing. We've got to work with the community to see this through. I'm not going anywhere until I'm gone. So I'm here to work and be sincere about what we're doing.
Can you go back over the numbers again, the number of kids that are in their ages?
You mean the kids here in our...
Yeah.
What I can share, I don't have the ages, but I will share with you that with this law, you have to be 14 to even be considered it being discretionary to get to us. That's one part of that. But when you're 15 and you've committed A, B, or C felony and you have a gun, it's an automatic transfer. So right now our office has 83 defendants we're prosecuting where the defendant was at least under 18 at the time of the offense. So of course some of these kids could be over 18 now. They could have been 17 and a half, they could have been, but 22 of the defendants we're prosecuting are currently still juveniles.
So which would mean they are younger than 15?
Well, no.
That's where I...
Yes, so there's juvenile court, and that's in district court with the county attorney's office. There's some great prosecutors that are working just in that court, juvenile court. But then comes the law where if a juvenile at the age of 14 and up, I guess that's the best way of looking at it, they can be either considered or as an automatic transfer to get to us. But it has to be specific, A, B, felony, and the C felony, and they also have to have a gun with, they have to have in possession of a gun.
Okay.
And that's one of the other reasons why we talk about parents. I mean, we understand, I believe in the Second Amendment, because I carry, so I get it. But we're talking about, so these 15-year-olds that we have and up, or occasionally the 14-year-olds, why are they running around with a gun? I mean, it just, we've got to figure something out. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
When you say waving up, that's spelled with an I, right?
It is walk away. Yes, and that's our words of saying it. That's why they have. I mean, there's transfer papers that they do in juvenile court before we can even get to it. We have to show the interest, and then we have to look at what the charge is, and then move from there.
Okay.
But having it be